to the music scene, showing lots of love for the community. With great advice, I know who I should go see. So all around town radio show, that's where I go.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to All Around Town Radio. It's a nooner here, and we are live from the All Around Town Radio studios in beautiful downtown Springboro, Ohio. Welcome to the program. It's Wednesday with the band, and without any further, man, I'm bringing in my guests today. I have two special guests and a wonderful show to talk about. We've got the boys from Genesis ReTouched going to join us today. If I can get off the big screen, there we go. How you doing, guys?
Fabulous.
Good to have you with us, Adam and Jim. How you been?
Good to see you. Good.
It's been a while since we've talked on here. Actually, the first show you did ever. we talked about it on the show, and since then, there's been lots of things happening, and you've got a big one coming up here very shortly. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Let's dive right in, though. Genesis ReTouched. This project, I'm going to describe it as has gone from its infancy now to toddler phase.
Yes.
It was Jim's baby to begin with, and he gave birth there at that first show and was so relieved that everything went well. And now we're dealing with the toddler. We've got a show that we've got to get out there to people, and you've got one coming up at Memorial Hall. We'll talk more about in the content today, but somebody take it here and tell me again, for those who are just joining us for the first time, how long this project of Genesis ReTouched was in your head and before it ever became a reality?
Oh, wow. So I'm going to say probably a year prior to our first show, which was a year ago yesterday. Our first show was a year ago yesterday. And so probably a year before that is when I started playing around with my main stage computer program that I use for my live sound and all the bands that I do. And when I put together this Genesis, the sounds for 22 Genesis songs, so the keyboard players could actually play the songs, I released them, and people are saying, well, why aren't you doing that? And so that started the wheels to go. And then when I saw the Last Domino show up in Columbus was what solidified it for me. It was the realization that we're not going to see these guys live again, and it's time to put something together to keep these songs and this era of Genesis alive. And so that was my thought, and then it started to snowball when I got Adam Wheeler involved.
And I have to say, I said it on the last show, and I'm going to say it actually the review I did on your show afterwards. When I first saw Adam step out on the stage and hit that first note, I said, man, I've been transported to Phil Collins' living room. I mean, it was this perfect voice to do what you do. And Adam, you know, this couldn't have been easy for you. I know you're an accomplished musician and you've played for years, but some of those songs are tough to do.
Yeah, they are. It's required a lot of time to. I mean, as familiar as I am with the stuff, and I grew up with it, but performing it all night is another thing, you know. And so it's been an experience, you know. It's very demanding. I haven't, you know, it's been probably almost 15 years since I've sung this much, you know, all a full night of music. You know, I used to lead bands and sing, and over the years I've become more of a kind of a side man or one of many singers in the band. So, you know, I'll belt one out and then I have 3 or 4 songs to kind of recover, but there's no stopping with this one. You know, it's just got to keep it going. You know, there's not a lot of harmonies, so it's most of the time it was just Phil covering all that stuff, you know. So it's quite an adjustment, but I'm enjoying it.
And you guys both and your band, they're obviously, like I said, accomplished musicians. You've played in a lot of other projects. Give the folks out there a little background as to you, Adam, if you will, and then we'll get to Jim here.
Yeah, so currently I'm performing with a number of bands in the area. Just to name a few, Catalina Wine Mixer Band, which is kind of does the late 70s, early 80s soft rock era that we'll call yacht rock. and been doing that with Clark, who's our guitar player in Genesis ReTouched. Play with the Eric Girardi band. I've been with Eric for, gosh, probably 15 years now or so. Eric still plays in the Dayton area, and we don't travel as much as we used to, but I'm still doing that. And then a number of other bands, the Cincinnati Transit Authority, which features the music of the Terry Kath era of Chicago. And I've also been working with the Newbies out of North Kentucky and the greater Cincinnati area, off and on with those cats. So yeah, that's just to name a few, but
Lots of fun stuff. And Jim, I keep muting you there. We're getting a little echo from you, but go ahead with your background too, if you can tell the folks.
I'm sorry about that, Scott. I hope that goes away. Hopefully it'll be away now.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, gee. I guess I can go back to the Mara days in the mid 80s to the late 80s. I played with Mara and Jay Aronoff, Chris Mundy, John Biondo, and then Todd Farler, which we did a lot of original music, and then went on to playing a bunch of cover songs along with our original music all over town until I took a leap of faith and played with a singer-songwriter, Danny Morgan, down in Sanibel Island, Captiva Island, Florida for 15 months. Came back and joined Bad Habit. I was with them for, well, we were getting ready to celebrate our 20th year when I was invited to join DV8, and I've been with DV8 ever since. Dreamboat Annie became a project after that, and then I've done a little side shows here and there with other groups such as Crown Watts and things like that. But and now Genesis ReTouched is becoming a home of mine. So
yeah, and both of you guys, I mean, just those are stellar lineups that you guys have been with or are with right now, and very well respected bands. And Adam, I got a chance to work with you over the summer with Eric Girardi at a festival. It was a blast. And Jim, I've been to many of your shows and seen a lot of, especially love the Dreamboat Annie side of things there. That's just one of my favorites, and it hits home anytime you go see that. And so does Genesis ReTouched, and it is. I loved Phil Collins in his day, and obviously he's still with us, but certainly not in the capacity that he was back in the day where he could really belt those tunes out and do the things that he did. So when people come to see this show on February 1st at Memorial Hall, what can they expect? If there are people watching today that have never even heard about this, what are you going to do with the audience there?
If you would have seen a Genesis show from the mid 80s to the mid 2000s, that is what we're reproducing. We decided to go, it was what my plan to go in that direction, as opposed to a lot of the, there's two camps. You've got the Peter Gabriel camp and you've got the Phil Collins camp. And the Peter Gabriel camp is really, really done best by a group called the Musical Box. They're out of Canada, and they really do that era of Genesis really, really well. The people that are doing the Phil Collins era of Genesis have, for the most part, with some notable exceptions, for the most part, they're splitting the show up into some Genesis and some Phil Collins solo. And I felt it was important to keep the second half of the Genesis experience alive, which is why I decided to go down that direction. And that's what you're going to see when you see a Genesis ReTouched show. So the first series of shows that we did at Madison Theater, we did a lot of their hits, Invisible Touch, Land of Confusion, Tonight, Throwing It All Away. But then we also, as Genesis would do, would throw a medley of old songs together. So Dance on a Volcano, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, The End of the Musical Box, Firth of Fifth, and then I Know What I Like. So that is the experience that we are focusing on, and we believe that that's a good niche. I mean, and if you think about it, that was the time that Genesis experienced its most popular album sales and their biggest arena and stadium shows that they did throughout that series of their career, and that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah, and that was really going to kind of lead into my next question, which is obviously why the Phil Collins era of Genesis. So let me twist it down to Adam for a minute and say, why say yes to this project, which just adds to your plate of things, obviously, to accomplish. But why say yes? And do you have a soft spot for Phil Collins era of Genesis as well?
Yeah, I grew up. I mean, my earliest memories were I can remember where I was and when I heard the song "That's All." I was a kid. I was pretty young. I was 83-ish, so I would have been maybe 6 years old. I remember being in the back seat and that song coming on the radio. So that's my earliest memories of Genesis and Phil Collins would have been that time period. But as I got older and I was about 14, 15, I got into the Peter Gabriel era. Huge fan of that stuff. And I pretty much dedicated a large chunk of that time period to learn how to play all of the drum parts. And Phil was a hero of mine, but I got back into the later stuff, as I sort of got through those albums. I was always curious what else, what led to the next step. You had Gabriel leave, you had Hackett leave, they're down to a 3-piece, but I still enjoyed all of that music all the way through. So fast forward to now, it had always been in the back of my mind. I would have loved to have been involved in a tribute type project, or at least have played some of that music, but it never really seemed to be the right time or the right combination of people. And when Jim came to me with this idea, it was out of the love of the music, but the timing is kind of good with, Genesis not really being able to tour anymore. There's a void to fill there. And we were kind of looking at this like, hey, let's kind of give a nod to all of this great music, really. There was just such a wonderful music over the decades, and we have so much to choose from. We have some surprises actually for the next show too, introducing a couple new old songs. So.
Well, and Genesis was not only known, especially in the Phil Collins era, for their expert musicianship and vocals, but also for their stage show. And when I saw your show the first time, I mean, you had some great people working with you. I believe Todd Buck on sound. You had, Tim Butterfield doing lighting, which he made the show look spectacular, by the way. The lighting scheme was just, I know he had to work on that countless hours to get that timing right and everything that he did. And so you put on a full scale production here for people to see. And if you haven't seen this show, I can't encourage it anymore. If you're out there watching today, if you're watching after we're live, you can drop a comment in if you want, or ask a question about it. If we didn't cover it today, these guys will monitor it as well as I will, and we'll try to get your answers. But if you're here right now, drop us a comment. If you have a question for the band, or for Jim or for Adam, please drop it in the comments. And saying hi to some people: Kevin Cooper, Steve Wick, thank you. Jamie Minnick, thank you for being here. Who else we got? Brian Middendorf's in the house, and Doug Wolf and Bill Dankoff. Thank you, Bill. And John Dale from the Gamut. Thank you for being with us today. So a lot of great people checking in here and watching what you guys are doing. And let's talk about members of the band, because this is a big project. And Jeff Vance is lurking, he says. Okay, thank you. Lurking in the background. Yes. So tell us who's in the band, and what they can expect out of those guys too that aren't joining us today.
Well, Adam is our Phil Collins, and he handles it with it's hard to find someone that can do those vocals and also play drums to the proficiency that needs to happen. Some of the Genesis or the Collins era Genesis shows that we've seen, they'll either have a guy that sings pretty well and plays mediocre drums, or sings okay and plays the drums pretty decently. But Adam has become the total package there, which is what I wanted to build this group around, is somebody that could do that. Clark Conley, who's excuse me, doing basically the part of Daryl Sturmer, which was one of the fill-ins for the three members of Genesis Live. He's taken all of the guitar duties. Matt Wiles from Spherical Agenda and other groups, fantastic jazz musician, is doing the Mike Rutherford stuff, so mostly bass and occasional guitar things here and there. And then Devin Lay, for also some Spherical Agenda, and Q-Tet and some other jazz. He's an amazing jazz musician as well, is doing the Chester Thompson thing. And it's, I continually say that in all the bands that I play with, my three main bands with Deviate, Dreamboat Annie, and Genesis ReTouched, I'm really, really blessed to be surrounded by really, really top-notch, incredible musicians. And something in the water in Cincinnati and the greater Cincinnati area, that's Middletown, Dayton, and the surrounding area, there's a ton of amazing musicians here. And it almost made the selection, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it had quite a bit to choose from. But the cool thing is that all five of us, we really groove together. The amount of rehearsals that we actually do would probably scare most people. We'll have 2 rehearsals before this show. But
that just proves the quality of the band. I mean, the project.
In some cases
does.
it might scare me, but in this case it doesn't. And everybody is just, they're always prepared, they're ready to go, and it's going to be a great thing.
Adam, we have a question coming in. Let's hit it real quick here from Brian Vogel. He said he'd love to hear about your drum set. Is it similar to Phil's at some point?
Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting. I found a drum maker in Topeka, Kansas, of all places. Check them out. Treehouse Drums. And this guy, Derek, I reached out to him because I saw, when we put this thing together, I had to look for something that sort of covered all the sizes, the wraparound toms. And when I was younger, I played on kits that size all the time. But, as you get older and wiser, I think you sort of try to truncate things as much as possible so you save your back and get in and out of the gig quickly. So I didn't really have anything like that laying around. So I reached out to this guy, Derek, at Treehouse, and asked about this custom kit they had called In the Air Tonight. And they sell it as a whole package. It's all, the specs are exactly like Phil had in pretty much any time from 80 on, I think. If you looked at the 70s kits, he was using Gretsch and a mix of Pearl and some other drums. And they were smaller. They might have been more like even like a Buddy Rich setup with 1 rack up and 2 floor toms. But the big kit, it has, let's see, I think it's, 9 toms or something. It's some outrageous amount of stuff. And yeah, the toms, I bought just the toms because I had the kick drum, or at least close to it. And then the snare drum's a little different. So it's not exactly, the entire kit is not an exact replica, but the toms are, and down to the heads and everything. That's really what I wanted to make sure was spot on, were the toms. Especially going into his solo stuff, with In the Air Tonight, that, there's no bottom heads, it's all concert toms. So you've got a top head with an open bottom, and that really helps produce that very sharp, less ring. It's got a lot of bite to it, and it gets out of the way quickly. So I made sure that the toms are down to this, everything is perfect. Well, I'm a lefty, oddly enough. I am a left-hander like Phil, but I play right-handed. So you'll see my set is set up like a mirror image to him. But, it works. And we set the drums kind of both up on risers, pointed in at a 45-degree angle, and it looks super cool. It's really cool.
It is. It's an awesome look. And, it's interesting. Thank you for that, by the way, comment, Brian. I appreciate it. It's interesting to see how you guys have tried to make this true to the artist. I mean, you've made this project true to that Phil Collins era of Genesis, and from everything, like I said, from the lighting down to the stage plot and all that, looks just fantastic. So how do you choose the songs? Now, you said you've got a few surprises coming up in this show coming up February 1st. Who picks the songs?
Well, it's typically Adam and I will get together and discuss kind of what we might want to do. I mean, I came up with an initial set list as we were compounding our members and putting things together so that we had some sort of plan or formula or at least vision of what the band was going to do. But depending on the situation, we'll at this point we'll be able to choose various songs. And let me give you for instance. So for Memorial Hall is a very old and a very iconic theater, and as much they don't allow you to hang any lights from the rafters. They don't have any attachment points like some of the other venues do. So when we decided to do the Memorial Hall show, we thought, well, lighting is going to be much different. There's going to be a lot more floor lighting and those types of things. We are going to bring in a truss to go back to not only hang a few lights, but also hang a curtain to kind of absorb some of the sound, because sound can be a pretty difficult issue there, especially because the city of Cincinnati has a limit on the decibels that can be played inside, and that limit is typically overshadowed by any drum kit. So, and we've got two drummers, which creates a real problem. But we decided, because the vision is going to be different than what we did at the Madison Theater, we decided to bring in an old medley. So that's going to be different for this show. We decided to change out a couple of other songs, that one from the Mama album and one from the Duke album. Or is that the Abacab album? I guess it would be the Abacab album. It would be the Duke album, I think.
We had Mama album and Abacab.
It is from Abacab. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
And then another one that we haven't done from Invisible Touch. So we wanted to change things up, obviously, because anybody that did see the last couple of shows, we just don't want to do the same show. We also, and as you mentioned about songs, we have a show in Destin, Florida, coming up in April 12th, I believe it is, at a place called Club LA in Destin, Florida. The owner of the club asked us to reproduce the 1987 Genesis show. And so that not only includes some of the things that we already had decided to do for this show, but then for that show, Domino and Los Endos are going to be added to that particular show. And as we add those things, as we play other places, we'll just mix and match and come up with those. But overall, the group decided, okay, and then they were 3 forward, or maybe Wind and Weathering forward, to make sure that it was the Phil Collins era, but then going back and grabbing that older stuff. And then, so that's our repository of songs to select.
So it's ever evolving, obviously, and will continue to ever evolve with the catalog, obviously, that you have to work with. Adam, is there ever a song that comes up, though, that you just say, I just don't think I want to pull that off?
Every one of them, I'm like, oh, I have to think about this. I'm always up for the challenge, but there are certainly a few that I'm just have to. I got to think about it for a minute, and particularly the ones where I'm part-time on the kit, and then I got to run up and sing. There's a lot of choreography involved with that, and I've always been a singing drummer, but you do that from behind the kit, and it's kind of a little bit of a crutch, if you will. And I'm really enjoying being out front, but I have to think about everything, where I'm going to stand, what I'm going to do with my hands. And so
I bet that's really intimidating the first time you do that. I mean, get out there.
I felt pretty naked.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You got that force field in front of you, the protection of the drum kit most days. And that's interesting.
Yeah,
so I got to answer Bill's question. Bill, before I even put it up on the screen, I'm saying I sure as hell hope so. Do y'all plan on going national to tour? This project, and I'm going to say it right now, guys, if you haven't seen this is amazing. And it is worthy of playing any venue in the United States or abroad to pay tribute to the Phil Collins era of Genesis. And if you all know, we all know, the ultimate result here, unfortunately, is going to be the loss of Phil, and that he needs to be immortalized in a way that you do it, and I think that comes the point where this is going to become extremely marketable, unfortunately, due to his demise, but also extremely marketable across the country to people who love that era of Genesis, and you guys do it so well. So I hope there's plans. Now I'll let you answer Bill's question.
Well, Bill, I'll just say from your mouth to God's ears that hopefully it'll happen. I'm reminded that we only started. We played our first show a year ago yesterday, and we've got 5 shows for 2025. My goal was 4 to 6 in 2025, and then seeing what develops into 2026. I think, and it appears we're going to exceed 6 for 2025, and I certainly hope so. There's some more things in the pipeline that I hope will transpire. But it's been a little challenging because we have one representative up in the Michigan area that's finding a few shows. We've got some things happening in Michigan later this year, and then we have that show down in Destin, Florida. So now we're already north and south, right? It's a lot of the places that I've tried to contact. You know, I send brochures in the mail. I'll send emails. I'll try to make phone calls. But nobody knows me, and you know, I think that they are more comfortable dealing with representatives that they deal with, people that know the bands, and so that the talent buyers at these various venues don't have to go out on a limb like the folks at Memorial Hall did and say, "Oh, okay, well, we'll give these guys a shot." I think the guys at Memorial Hall are pretty happy right now because we've got at this point 70 tickets left to sell, so that's working out all right. But yeah, we would love to be. There's a Pink Floyd band called Floyd Nation, and the reason I bring this up is they just flew to London and recorded their own Floyd album at Abbey Road Studios. So this is a tribute band that took their show and basically took it to Abbey Road Studios, which is where Floyd recorded their stuff. And now they're recording Floyd stuff at Abbey Road Studios. And I said to the guys just yesterday, I think it was, you know, why can't we do something like that? I'll throw it out there as something that I wouldn't mind doing. And if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, then, you know, if you don't dream it, it'll never happen. So that's why
that's a little bit. That's a wee bit cool, I think, just a little bit. That they're doing that. That'd be so cool to do. And Jim and Adam, you guys, after the first show, after your first show there that you did, what'd you learn from that?
Go ahead, Adam.
How much I underestimated no, I mean that in a good way too. It was very it shined a lot of light on what it would take to get this project up and running. It's a big boat to get in the water, you know, and if it weren't, you know, we've got the right people. That's so important, that everybody in this group is a fantastic musician, but also it's a great hang. Everyone is super cool. And that is so important, you know, to have a bunch of friends, you know, that people that get along and are respectful and are pleasant to be around, you know. So we're super lucky there. But yeah, the first show really, it just, I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but you know, it's just you realize what it's going to take to you know, replicate it and get it to the next level. It's not going to be easy. Never said it was easy, but you know, you realize you love it enough to continue to do it. And you know, the hope is that we can get some wheels and get some legs and get this out there. You know.
Well, we love it. So I hope you guys love it as much as the audience does, because the audience, all I heard in the audience when I was there at the debut show was, wow, amazing, all those kind of terms. And Adam, your frontman, no one would have ever known that that's intimidating for you to step out there in front of the kit and do that, because you put on a fantastic show. And I think the more of these you do, obviously, the tighter it's going to get, the better it's going to get to the audience and things. So let's talk about future plans beyond the 5 shows this year or 6 that you may pull off. Where do you see this thing going? Somebody tell me where you, or maybe where's the vision for it? Where's it going?
I will be happy when I can do the entire tambourine dance just like Phil did.
All right.
I did ask you that before the first show, didn't I? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Jim.
Well, I would love to see it be as popular as to be able to take it, coast to coast, into Canada. I told the guys it would be really, really cool to be able to do a small tour of the UK or something sometime in the future. I guess my thought process is this. My concern was, would it work? And when we were doing the rehearsals for the first show, I felt, well, I think it can work. And then after the first show, it was like, it works. and then so it really just comes down to finding the opportunities and chasing the opportunities where they present themselves at this point. I mean, it won't be for a lack of trying to do all the things that were kind of in the back of my mind. And I feel like a 60-year-old preteen that's dreaming of being a fireman when he grows up. You know what I mean? So at this
funny
point,
you said that.
I'm right now. I'm dreaming of being in a touring band that's doing this really, really cool music, and this show that puts forth everything that Genesis was for me the first time that I saw them during their Invisible Touch tour. And if it can happen, well, that's fabulous. If it doesn't happen, it won't be for the lack of trying.
Good words. Yeah. And you're trying hard. I know you've put a lot of sweat equity into this, and the whole production itself, like I said, if you haven't seen it, everybody, it's amazing. You need to go see it. 70 tickets left for Memorial Hall. So if that's getting down there. So if you want to go February 1st, let me get that up on the screen again, where you can find the tickets here. And that is memorialhallotr.com is the ticket link there, memorialhallotr.com. And you can pick up your tickets there. I know that there, as Stephanie Sutherland said a few minutes ago, there's not a bad seat in Memorial Hall, and you can go see this show. Real quick, we're running out of time, but I wanted to touch on something. You mentioned Memorial Hall and the sound ordinances and things like that. Lighting, hanging challenges, you said, but are there any other challenges for playing a room like that with a band that plays this kind of music? Because let's face it, that was an orchestral room. It was a non-amplification room when it was designed and built. What goes into that?
Well, the biggest issue, obviously, is because it's designed to be an acoustical. It's basically a megaphone. The back of the room is concave, so that anything that is produced on the stage hits that back wall and comes out. Todd Buck, I could best describe him right now as nervous as an expected father. He did an amazing job at the Dreamboat Annie show, and I know he was challenged. And now we've got not just one drum kit, but 2 drum kits, and how do you manage that? So between Todd and Tim, we talked about flying. They have access to a theater curtain. We're actually bringing that in, which is why we're bringing stands and a truss to hang that curtain behind to try to absorb that sound. Adam and Devin are going to be challenged to be able to play the stuff, but be able to play lightly enough in order to adhere to that. Luckily, the rest of us, we have no stage monitors. So for keyboards, guitars, and bass, there is nothing on stage. It all comes out of the PA. So that's a real benefit.
Sure.
It's just that Todd has to deal with the drums and being able to mix it. Now, having said that, there's probably Todd is one of two people that I would trust to be able to do that. So I know he's going to do a fabulous job, and it's going to sound amazing. The fact that the room is almost full, and I spoke to Barry, who's he's the sound tech at Memorial Hall, and I had a nice conversation with him about that. And he says if you can fill the place, that is going to absorb a lot of the sound, so that you won't have as much of a problem as you normally would if it's only half full. So the fact that we're 70 tickets shy of a sellout means that we're going to have a lot of sound absorption, and from a performer standpoint, 500 some people screaming back at you at the end of the song, it's pretty cool in a room like that. but
Yeah,
those are the
that's awesome.
challenges, to be able to find a way to absorb the sound and be really creative.
It's a wonderful venue. It really is.
It really is. It's beautiful,
Great, intimate.
Oh, yeah.
It feels very intimate, and I've seen many shows there, and I've enjoyed every one of them. And I know I cannot remember who mentioned this, but I can second that. There is no bad seat in the house. There's really not. I've tried in the balcony, done the boxes, even up front. It's just all what you like to hear and what you want to see.
And Stephanie Sutherland, thank you for those comments. That was who made those comments, and she is in two projects called Finding Melissa and White Knuckle Weekend. And thank you for being there. I know she and her husband Billy are looking forward to going. We talked about it the other night, and they're going to be there on the February 1st. So let's recap this show. 8 p.m. start time, February 1st, Saturday night, Memorial Hall in Cincinnati, and you can get tickets at memorialhallotr.com. And what else do you guys have to share before we go today? We're running way long and out of time, but let's chat it up if we can.
I do want to mention on the topic of tickets, if anyone is interested, and hopefully we still have some people interested, if you navigate to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Genesis ReTouched, I believe. If you go there, you'll find a post that was just made within the last hour or so. And that post, we are giving away 2 tickets. They will be announced tomorrow around noon, or just shortly after. All you have to do is go to the post on the Facebook page, like the post, and comment #Genesis ReTouched, and you'll automatically be entered into. We'll tally up, and it'll be selected at random and all that. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure we announce that because we are giving away 2 tickets.
Perfect.
So, yeah,
absolutely. What else you got, Jim?
Other than I want to thank so many people that have been really supportive of the project thus far. And I named them on a post. You can go to my Facebook page or the Genesis Facebook page to kind of read that. But the music community and the fans of this town are just amazing. And this gives me an opportunity to say thank you so much for supporting music in general, but especially this project and what we do. We'll be out and about a couple of times in the area this year, which is kind of nice. And those will be announced when they're able to be announced.
Maybe up by me, I hope.
Well, I don't think Adam's going to have to drive very far for his.
Adam, we like that idea, don't we? Yeah, it's good.
And hopefully, I know that there's some other places that are still looking at us for a possibility for 2025, and hopefully we'll be granted those opportunities. But it's because the people come to see us that and spread the word that we're able to be 70 tickets from a sellout right now, and I just can't thank you enough. And in extension of that, thank you, Scott, for everything that you always do. I always want to make sure that I say that, because without people like you, then a lot of this stuff doesn't get to the masses. So thank you for all you do, man.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for joining me today. I know we've talked before, but it's always important for those that haven't seen it. And I know there's going to be a lot of people watching the show after we're live, because the noon hour doesn't always draw the biggest live audience. So if you're watching after we're live and you have a question, these guys they're going to share it on their page, so they'll be able to catch the comments. Please ask those comments if you have a question about the show or anything or the background of the show or the technology that goes into it, any of that. Please drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And we hope to see you on February 1st at this Genesis ReTouched show at Memorial Hall. It kicks off at 8 p.m. It's a beautiful venue, plenty of parking around it and everything else. So it's easy to get in and out of and be part of there. So hopefully everybody's going to join you guys, and it's going to be a big show.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right. Can't thank you enough for being here, fellas. Adam, thank you. Jim, thank you. And best of luck with this next one. And I know, man, that's cool. 5 more this year or whatever you're going to pull off. That's fantastic. And I think be careful what you wish for, fellas. Be careful. It could.
I'll deal with it.
Could get really, really big. Thanks for watching today, everybody, here at All Around Town Radio. We'll be back with you tomorrow live at 5 with Who's Playing Out, the best musicians and venues in the tri-state, and who's playing for the week, so you get a chance to get your list of live local music. And until then, you've been on here with Genesis ReTouched. I'm Scott Hall, your host. We'll catch you next time right here at All Around Town Radio. Thanks for watching, everybody. More cowbell,
Stapler.
man. Give me more cowbell.
More stapler.